Christy.
What about Christy, Grandpa?
Just seems strange, Jacob. Very strange. I've never heard of that happen before. Tell me again what happened.
Well, Grandpa, Christy drove up to get the cattle. I think he was changing the fence. Anyway, I saw a cow start to run like crazy, right over the edge here into the ravine.
And she's dead?
Yeah.
And Christy?
He's milking the cows as we speak.
Why didn't he sort out this dead cow first?
I think he did climb down to her after she fell.
Think! You either saw it and you know it, or you didn't see it and you don't know nothing at all. Now I want you to think. Use your brain and tell me everything you know about the story.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Well, it was like this. I was quite far away. I was in that field up there looking down to here. Yeah. I could see things pretty clearly, I think. The cows were in the field. Christy had just driven into the field with his jeep, so they were making their way in dribs and drabs towards the gate. He honked his horn, which was fine. It put a gatch under a few of them. Then suddenly one of the cows started acting like crazy and ran right over the edge here into the ravine. When it happened, Christy was already out of the jeep, already changing the fence. He didn't do anything, and he was too far away from her to stop her anyway once she'd got going. He ran after her, but it was too late. He did climb down to the cow, but I didn't see it clearly because I started running myself.
I don't like it. It doesn't make any sense, young lad. Tell me what happened again.
Well, Christy was in the field with the cows, with the jeep. The cows know the story and were walking towards the gate. It was like normal, from what I could tell. He honked his horn, maybe 2 times. It could have been 3, but I'm fairly certain it was 2. Anyway, that was fine. It was a good bit before the cow got excited anyway. He was out of his jeep shirt, changing the fence. Taking his time. No panic. I think he even answered his phone at one stage. Did anything happen to set them off? But what could have happened? I don't know. Christy ran after it, but it was too late. He checked it alright, I think. But I didn't see it clearly because I started running myself.
Yeah, of course. Can you go through it all again?
Christy came into the field to get the cows. A cow ran off a cliff and killed itself.
I'm more worried about Christy. Did he run after the cow to stop her? Or did he chase her off the cliff?
Why would he chase her?
Did he chase her?
I don't know.
No! That's what we need to know. Go through it all again. We need to figure this out. Act it out for me this time.
Act it out?
Yes.
To make it clearer?
Yes.
I was up there 2 fields away, looking down to here from up there. I saw Christy drive in amongst the cows. They moved. He got out of his jeep and started changing the fence. He was a good 30 metres or more from the cow that bucked when she bucked. The first thing I saw was the cow running, you see, then flicked my head and saw Christy chasing after her. I don't know who started running first, unfortunately.
I think it was Christy.
That doesn't make sense.
I think he frightened that cow, then ran after her, but only frightened her further till she came off the cliff. He can't handle cows and won't tell you when he's wrong. He'll never learn. I bet you anything he'll blame me when we ask him about it.
Christy's not like that.
Christy is like that. He's exactly like that. Did I ever tell you what happened to myself and Christy? We went to that hare coursing meeting across the water. We got a bit lost. Christy was driving, of course. So he spotted a car with a dog in the back. For sure. The man's going to the same hare coursing meeting as us, so Christy followed. Your man starts going down all sorts of strange roads. But Christy keeps following him. Wouldn't listen to anyone else in the car. Eventually the man stops beside a holy well, gets a bucket out of his boot and walks over to it. Christy stops the car, then goes, "Fuck this shit." Gets out and starts shouting at the old man. A poor old man visiting the holy well. You see, it was the old man's fault, not Christy's. Same thing, of course, happened that time we went to the All-Ireland final. Christy orders a beer shandy, and the young fella half fills a pint glass with TK lemonade from an already open 2-litre bottle. Then tops it up with Foster's. Cat. No doubt it was a beer shandy in that pub. But anyway, Christy just turns to the young boy and says, "Take that glass and pour it down the sink. Now go over to the fridge and get me out a proper bottle of Nash's lemonade. Now then, get me a hard glass, a cold one, and fill it up with Heineken. Now then, put the two of them up on the counter there. That's a beer shandy. That's not a beer shandy. But you can't tell him that.
I remember at Clonmel coursing, he didn't want to pay the entrance fee. So he puts his foot down and drives right past the guy collecting money. That guy can't leave his post, he said, so what's he gonna do?
That's what worries me. I can't understand who he is. Tell us that story about the lads hanging around Cantillon's Butchers. I thought you told me that one before. I don't know. But Cantillon's back was in a bad way, so he asked Christy for a bit of help lifting the carcass onto the hook. Do you remember? You tell it to me there. Anyway, all he needed was a quick hand, a simple thing. But Christy just turned around and said, "You can do it yourself, Cantillon. You already charged us enough money for it," and walked straight out of the shop. Anyway.
I actually heard that already. But people like him for it. He tells the truth and that's good.
No, he's not. He's a bad man. He went on a few dates with a girl once. A nice girl. I knew her. A primary school teacher and a virgin. And one night he brought her to a club. He spotted an old girlfriend of his on the dance floor, so he asked the teacher to hold his glass while he went to the toilet, wink, wink. The teacher spent the rest of the night waiting for him after that, but Christy had gone home with the old girlfriend. Why did he do that? It's hard to explain the man.
He told me a dream once, where his girlfriend was working down the docks, sleeping with all these sailors. She had sex with multiple men every night. He told me that, and then he dumped her.
His mother was a strange woman, let me tell you. I remember once, not long after his mother moved into my house, he comes up to me and tells me he was going to take over the farm. Just like that. He was only 5. I'd say his mother put him up to it. I told him he wouldn't, because he wasn't actually my real son. He was only my wife's son. Your father, who was born around then, was the one I wanted to give the farm to, of course. But Christy just turned around and said he was going to get the farm anyway, because they're the same mammy, and he was older, and there was nothing I was going to do about it. That taught me a lesson, I tell you. A lesson I never forgot.
But he was only a child.
So what? I know what I want. We're just talking about you, Christy. What kind of man are you?
A good man, more or less. Not the best, but I don't believe in best anyway, so...
I don't think you are either. Do you agree?
Yeah.
I agree with you too. You have a lot to learn yet, but you'll get there eventually.
Maybe. I will.
I got a call yesterday from my friend Tom about a crash he nearly had with a goat. He said his son did the best bit of driving he ever saw. The sun was glaring and was getting in his son's eyes as the sun was overtaking the car in front of him. The goat jumped out of nowhere. If he'd have braked, like anyone else would do, he'd have crashed the car. But he actually pressed the accelerator instead and managed to overtake the car he was overtaken in time before hitting the goat. It was split-second stuff, but he kept a cool head and made a very quick decision, which is a very good sign of a man.
Something similar happened to me as well, a couple of weeks ago. Animals are acting very strange lately.
Bullshit. Don't do that. Don't use my story to explain why that cow went over the edge here. I'm not blaming you, but I'm holding you responsible. You were the only one in that field, and that cow didn't jump off the cliff for no reason.
But that's exactly my point. Maybe it did happen for no reason. Anybody who knows anything about the sciences would instantly account for it just like that. I mean, if you look at a controlled scientific experiment, there are always unexplained phenomena. I mean, when someone carries out a controlled scientific experiment at the best laboratories, at the end, there are lots of things that are unexplained, and funny coincidences, and this and that. So when you take a natural event, you know, not something that's controlled, most of it will be unexplained. That's just the way complicated events are. Many people think so.
Listen, that is an argument, but only an argument. But what I say is, What kind of man would use an argument like that? Somebody would only use an argument like that if they were trying to explain something away. What are you trying to explain away, Christy? You don't have to admit anything, but you killed that cow, and I'm taking the price of her out of your wages.
I don't think you can anymore.
You know, Christy was brought to a kind of doctor as a kid by his mother.
Forget about this.
And apparently all the kids were brought around the fire, were asked to look into
Listen.
and to tell everyone what they saw. So of course, all the kids saw amazing
That's
things
enough.
in the fire, like devils and monsters and snakes,
Listen.
deformed formations,
Listen.
reptile green lucifers, goats and snaky
Take it
torsos,
easy.
frozen serpents and lake cockles,
To-
a devil with a large vagina, out of which a monster was
Listen
emerging,
now.
a fantastic figure, noises, monsters, beasts, leviathans, the triumph of death, the last judgment, and all this. And what do you think Christy Balls here saw when he was asked? He saw turf! Look, okay. Don't be so serious. I'm not blaming you. I don't know anything. You don't know anything. That's all we can say about it.
Let's just wait and see what the vet says.
What if that cow died because we have the worst thing that can happen to a farmer? What if those stumbles and odd behaviours I noticed in that cow were caused by something you know nothing about? What if, look at you, are you listening? What if certain sections of that cow's brain have been slowly transforming into a dry sponge that's sick? What if we've got a plague in our entire herd or a herd of dead cows? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that cow might have it. 45 million cows had to be burnt in incinerators in the UK. Cows whose ashes couldn't be scattered, but had to be stored in World War II blimp hangers because it was so infectious. This plague can survive anything and could be spreading around our farm right now. I don't know anything. Let me say that. I don't know anything, but I think that's true. And if it's true, then it's all your fault. That cow was number 56. It was one of the 7 cows you bought off those herdsmen across the border recently, which was breaking the law, by the way. I told you not to buy them, but you told me I was wrong. I told you to test them, but you didn't do that either. You didn't listen to me when I warned you, and you did what you wanted, because that's the way you are. And now we could all be in trouble.
I did what I wanted.
Yes.
And now we're in trouble.
Yes.
Maybe. But I think you're imagining things. I know those people. There's no way they do that. You have to trust people. I trust people, but you don't trust anyone. That's no way to live.
Well, listen to this then. I was queuing up in the post office recently, and a woman for who I left the queue to help come in the door actually stands in front of me when we get back to the queue. I left the queue to help her. Anyway, when the clerk called her forward, I stepped ahead of her. I was hoping she'd object so that I could rip into her about her bad manners, but she just said, "Oh, sorry," like I was a bully. I'm not a bully, and looked at me like she couldn't understand why I did that. The thing is, she probably didn't understand why I did that. She didn't think about me standing in the queue before I helped her at all. When it suits people not to think. That's what I said.
Ah, look. She probably just wasn't thinking.
That's the problem. People don't think.
That's not true. If there's one thing we can be certain of, it's that people think.
Yes, they do. But let's just say they don't think enough then.
Come on. Nobody can think enough. What people do think, and I mean think about the right thing to do. They found out something very interesting about England in the 16th century. You see, England was very resistant to the plague, which is strange, because it's an island and had a lot of ports to spread the disease. The only way historians could explain it was there must have quarantined every ship that arrived in the country from another country. Okay. But the thing is, around this time, half of English trade was done by pirates. And pirates are not going to follow an official quarantine. Right? But because the plague levels were so low, it was clear that the pirates were adhering to the quarantine laws too. The pirates were doing the right thing, of their own accord, even though they were pirates. I'm sure it would have been safer for them to drop their cargo as quick as possible. But they didn't. If pirates are good, then everyone is good.
But everyone isn't good. In Germany, how many people spoke up to save the Jews?
Not many. But maybe the Germans are right to do that. We don't know that.
You know that Germany was the most advanced country in the world at the time. Best art, best science, best culture in the world. And then the Nazis took over.
Exactly. So who are we to tell them that that was the right thing to do at the time?
Yes, they were wrong, but they thought they were right.
Correction. We say they were wrong, but they thought they were right.
I agree with you. Everybody says they were wrong, but they thought they were right. And that's what you've got to be careful of. You think we're safe because you believe good people wouldn't sell you bad cows, because selling bad cows wouldn't be right.
I know those people for years. There's no way they'd do that.
No way.
Believe me, the older you get, the more you realise nobody ever does anything you wouldn't have expected them to do before they did. Some people have a criminal bent, and you can spot them easily enough. But ordinary decent people will always do the decent thing. That's experience, boy. People are good. Take everyone in this room. If we look at everyone in this room, we'll only find a handful of incidents that could be caught fishing. Forget about children now, and foreigners, and just think about the adults you know. How many adults have ever tried to hoodwink you? Hands up. How many adults? The odd stranger here or there, but never ever your friends, or even the people you're kind of friendly with. Look around you. Hardly anyone. And when you think of all the time these people have been alive, and we're talking hundreds of years of life when you put all their lives together, and only a handful of times during all those times has something unpredictable happened involving friends. Come on. You see, in this world, things will always go right.
But things do go bad.
Yeah, but the real bad thing is worrying about bad things. Because if you're worrying about bad things, then you're not concentrating on doing good things. Because doing good things is the one thing that will make up for any bad things. If ever any bad things would even happen in the first place.
I disagree.
I knew you would. That's the way you are. It's predictable. You see bad people everywhere, and you live in a world of bad people. I see good people everywhere, and I have a lot of good friends.
Are you sure?
I'm only trying to advise you. You're my son after all.
I said, are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure.
Tell me why you bought those cattle. I told you not to.
Exactly. You did say that. But like anyone can say anything they want. Why not? But a real man has to make decisions based solely on what he knows to be true. We needed new cows. Those were fine cows. I know that herdsman very well. He's from over the border, but he's a good man, and to be honest, I couldn't argue with the price.
Why were they so cheap?
Sometimes cows are cheap. Sometimes cows are expensive. This man knows me, and he gave me a good deal this time. And maybe next time, I'll throw him a deal. That's the way life works. And that's why I have good friends.
But they were cheap.
Yes, they were very cheap, which was very good.
That makes me suspicious. He sold you 7 cows. 7 cows in one go. Maybe he was selling them fast, eh? But you got the price you were after, and you were happy with that. But I asked the question, why did you get the price you were after? Now, maybe it was good, but maybe it was bad. Imagine that those cows were infected. Maybe he had suspected that, just suspected, and was selling off all his cattle quickly before anything could be detected. There's no compensation for infected cattle, remember, especially across the border.
This man wouldn't sell me cows he suspected were infected.
Well, maybe he suspected, but he also didn't suspect. He knew, but he didn't really know. He decides to sell you his cows, but for no reason, he tells himself. More than likely, his suspicions will come to nothing. It's just a precaution, after all. And if he gives his friend his good cattle for a cheap price, he's probably doing you a favour. I'm telling you, people are very good at self-deception if it's in their interest to be deceived.
Yeah, that's true. It could be true. It might not be true either. But you're making a good argument, though. I don't agree with you, but what I like is that you make a good argument.
Isn't it only the vet who can tell us what the story is anyway?
Exactly. In fact, there's probably no point in talking about anything. Anything at all. Is there?
Okay. Imagine there's a chance you'd have the worst kind of disease you can imagine. Something really bad that's really a terrible way to go. But you know this doctor who you totally trusted, and he gave you this option. He offered you to come into his office once every few weeks and do a really quick test that will tell the doctor if you had the disease or not. But then the doctor would keep the results to himself. Then you'd agree with the doctor that if you ever tested positive, he would secretly put some poison in your food that will kill you in your sleep. You'd never have to worry about how you were going to kill yourself, or if you were going to kill yourself. You'd never have to worry about any suffering, you'd avoid all pain. Perfect. Would you enter into that agreement with the doctor?
Good question, Jacob. It's not obvious what the answer is. I'd have to think about it. But clearly you'd have to accept the offer. I mean, the other option is just plain stupid. Of course, would you trust the doctor? I would, but I guess that's a different question entirely.
I've been thinking about it. I don't trust that vet. Jacob, call the vet and tell him not to come.
What? Who said so?
I say so. That vet could finish us.
Jacob, don't even think about it.
I have a plan if you want to listen.
Of course I want to listen.
I say we bury that cow and pretend it never happened. Then we sell on those other cattle we bought as quick as we can. We set up our own quarantine system and sell the rest of the herd. And use the money to buy other cattle to replace them. Within about 6 months we'll be in the clear and there's every chance we'll be able to keep our farm.
Sounds good, Paul.
Jacob's right, it's a good idea.
No way. It's stupid. What kind of man are you?
I'm trying to think about what's the right thing to do.
You're the kind of man who would sell infected cows to another farmer.
We don't know they're infected.
But maybe they are infected.
Any cow anywhere could be infected.
Not any cow, not cows that are tested. And that's what we're going to do.
Then you're going to do something stupid.
That's the kind of man I am. I do the right thing, and I never do the wrong thing. And I'll die that way if I have to.
But what if we've got an infection? What then?
I'm sure it happens all the time. Some expert appointed by the state will have worked out what's the right thing to do.
The state?
Yeah?
The state doesn't care about what's right or wrong.
They do more or less.
No, they don't. They don't care about you one bit.
That's not
Don't you
true.
realise anything about the world?
Well,
No state ever cares about small farmers.
how do
Go to
you
America,
know?
you'll see. The price farmers get for crops is actually less now than it was in the 70s. Even though the price the food is sold at has never been higher. Explain that one to me.
That's
Let's
just
be talking.
economics, of
Only big
course.
industrial farmers can make a profit in America. And industrial farming is handier for the state. One lobby group, 1 or 2 businessmen, and a nice big fat tax check at the end of the year. How bad? You know the Mexican state signed NAFTA back in the 90s, and within a year 1.5 million Mexican farmers went bankrupt. Bankrupt. Some of them starved. So who did well out of that deal?
Maybe the other
I don't know.
farmers.
It's all a mystery to me. But listen to this. Ee Kyung-hae broke into an IMF meeting in Seoul a few years ago. He jumped the fence and then stabbed himself in the chest, shouting, "The IMF kills small farmers." He bled to death a few days later. Dead. He killed himself for small farming. You see, the Korean state had allowed Australian companies export their beef into Korea, and millions of Korean farmers went bankrupt. Why? States don't care about small farmers and will kill them to make room for bigger farmers. Did you ever hear of the Highland clearances?
Yes.
Or the 31 famines in India under British rule?
No.
There were only a couple of famines in India in the entire 2,000 years before that. So what happened? Poor Indian farmers died to make room for big farmers from Britain. I don't really get it, but here's a clue. You know why Britain became so rich in the 19th century and France kind of didn't?
Wait a minute. I don't actually.
It's the law. Farmers in France had rights because of the French Revolution, but British farmers had no rights at all, so they could be all kicked off the land whenever Britain wanted to. You know what this meant?
I'm sure it
It
meant
meant
a
the
lot of
countryside was
things.
free for big farmers to do what they wanted and make more money. Oh, and you know what else it meant?
Like I said, a lot
It
of
meant all
things.
these British farmers turned into cheap labour for the cities. Cheap labour meant the British could build these monster factories that took over the world. The Brits were great in exploitation. But the French couldn't do it because of the French Revolution. French farmers had rights and they couldn't be pushed around so easy. And they had a lot better lives than the poor old Brits. Beautiful, sexual lives. But don't think their state didn't try. They did. But Frenchie resisted. Yeah, that's what I believe in. Resistance. And that's what I believe we should do now. The state's our enemy. And if you don't realise that, they will kill you. And me. And Jacob. But I'm going to fight them because that's the kind of man I am. I'm the kind of man that fights for what's right.
No, you won't. I don't think you will.
I will.
I don't agree. Or maybe you will. It doesn't matter. I have a different analysis of the situation. You see, I don't think you're telling the truth. I think you frightened that cow, and that's why she jumped off the cliff. You don't want that vet coming out here, because then he'd prove you did it. You can't handle cows, Christy, and I I don't know why, and I don't think you'll ever be able to run this farm on your own.
I disagree, and I will. What else are you going to do with it?
There's 1,000 better things I could do with it than hand it over to you. I'll be dead, and I'd rather think about the interests of the greater sum of humanity than the interests of one man.
I'm your only son, and I'm going to take over this farm whether you like it or not.
No, you won't.
Have you not heard what the vet said?
I will.
He said it doesn't look good. It looks like we've got the worst kind of thing that could happen to a farmer. He can't say for certain, but right now it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all.
What did he say?
He said it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all.
He must have said something else.
He did, but I can't remember exactly. It doesn't matter. All the cows have to stay on the farm until he knows what it is. It's a quarantine.
Quarantine?
He told me to tell you to do nothing. There's nothing we can do now, so we should just wait to see what the tests will say.
Is that everything? Go through the whole thing again and tell us exactly what he said.
No.
He said do nothing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he wants us to do. This is serious. I'm not seriously going to stand here and watch my farm destroy itself and keep talking about it.
That's all we can do now. It's too late to do anything.
It's never too late. No matter how bad the situation, you can always do something to make it better. You're alive, aren't you?
But what?
I don't know now, but it won't take me long to figure it out. It's times like this when you really see what a character is made of. Remember when Man U bet Bayern Munich? They were 1-0 down the whole game, but they never give up. Then they got that equaliser in extra time, and not happy with that, they went and scored another goal to win the game. That's Alex Ferguson for you.
Soccer is flippin' soccer. Who cares?
True, but I'm talking about character. You can talk and talk about a man's character all you want, but the only way to tell it is to watch how he responds to a situation. That's when you learn it. And I'm learning a lot about the kind of character you are right now.
I know what we can do. What do you think Grandpa will do?
He'd do nothing, dummy.
Don't call me dummy. He will do something. Do you remember that time he spent 4 days hammering a spike onto the main road with nothing but a sledge? That was because the council wouldn't let him dig it up. 4 days hammering away with his bare hands. And he would have gone on longer if he had to, because he had to do it. Simple as that. Do you actually think he'll give up?
He was lazy too most of the time. How often would he come home from school and he would be asleep on the couch? I remember one evening he comes into the house, the cows were calving and my mother was stressed up to the nines. And cool as a breeze, he says there's a bubble coming out of the cow's arse and goes on past us and into bed. Myself and my mother had to calve the cow ourselves. A bubble, can you believe that?
Yeah, so what? He was strong too when he had to be. I remember when I was younger playing in the lawn there, you know, at the front with my friend. When I see Grandpa running past me and into the house. Then we hear this shouting, and one of the lads working for us comes running out of the house. Big fat fella called Magnus. He runs out and Grandpa runs out after him and starts poking him into the head until your man gets away. Magnus had been spotted sneaking upstairs and money was starting to go missing up there. Grandpa must have been about 60 at this stage and Magnus was a good 30 years younger and 18 stone. But Grandpa was still strong enough to clatter him when he wanted to.
Yeah. He's strong all right, but the wrong kind of strong. Strong men aren't always the best men. Weak men are always better men than strong men. Do you know the guy I went to school with, Jake Foran?
Yeah.
I'd say you never knew his father. He was in a wheelchair, car accident or whatever. But anyway, he had to bring Jake up on his own. Jake now was the best student in the class, top marks and everything. And he never got up to any mess or beside school either. No fighting or drinking or chasing women. He had to do all these jobs for his father as well. He had something to do nearly every minute of the day. He's a great success now anyway. Think about it. His father couldn't be weaker. He was handicapped for fuck's sake. But this man in a wheelchair had his son more disciplined than any of our fathers could even dream of. Strong men and all that they were. Now, it was no coincidence. Clearly, it was because he was handicapped that he was able to exercise such control. Great men are never strong men.
You know, Napoleon was very small.
And Frederick the Great, Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great ran away from the first battle he ever fought. Whatever big battle it was, when the fighting broke out, he got nervous and ran away. That was the kind of man he was. A coward. A little coward. But we we all know how great a man Frederick the Great turned out to be after that.
You think you're better than Grandpa because you're weaker than Grandpa.
Jacob, we have to get rid of Grandpa. You know what the Liberals said to Bismarck when they finally won a majority parliament? Because you've been in power for so long, none of our best men have been able to gain the experience necessary to lead the country properly. Because of that, we reluctantly think it best that you continue to lead the country. That's flipping bullshit. To spend so long listening to one old man that when the young guys get to take over, they can't handle it. We don't want that situation to happen here, now do we?
Do we? What? Grandpa isn't a politician. He should be allowed to stay in charge until he wants to retire himself.
He won't retire himself, and he's getting Alzheimer's, so he definitely won't retire himself.
He's not getting Alzheimer's.
He is. It's in the blood, Jacob. I've been watching him for a while now. His own father died from the same thing. I'm sorry. I've seen it all happen before. It ain't good.
You really are a bullshitter.
What?
Grandpa may be old, but he'd never come out with bullshit like that just to get his own way.
I'm telling the truth, Jacob.
But you've got no proof. I hate you, man.
Okay, you're worried about him. Fine. But I remember the first time the boss showed signs of Alzheimer's was when he ran his greyhound after he found out she had an injury.
Who?
The boss was Paul's father. Anyway, the boss ran the greyhound, and we were all looking at him going, what the fuck? Only an idiot would run an injured dog. The dog, of course, broke her leg and had to be shot. Paul was livid. I remember. He kept telling everyone about how one time the boss would laugh at all the old men who would run their dogs no matter what. Let them off. You never know. We might win. Paul roared this into his father's face. Now look at you, doing the same thing. Paul couldn't accept this. But listen to me, Jacob. Old men will always start to lose their minds and act foolish. That's life, man. Open your eyes. Paul would never have bought those cows 5 years ago.
Why not? Anybody can make a mistake.
You think Alzheimer's isn't serious? I caught the boss one night drinking back a bottle of methylated spirits. Think about that. In the middle of the night, I switched on the light, and there was the boss in his long johns tipping the bottle into his mouth. I thought God help his shit the next day. But he was grand. Probably cleaned him out. He nearly killed himself another night though, when he started the tractor and nearly drove it off the cliff. Luckily enough, it ran out of petrol 2 feet from the edge. Then he got off and walked home. Not a bother. Can you imagine if it ran out of petrol 6 feet later? He could have smashed that tractor in bits. And that was an expensive tractor. You think it's funny, but that's how people die. Stupidity. Not to mention a man with Alzheimer's. No, no. Another time, I remember seeing him in the hospital before he died. His mind was totally gone at this stage. He didn't know where he was, and he didn't know me, and he didn't know anyone. Now that's the loneliest a human can possibly be. And he was looking at the window at children, and crying. Crying! I'm serious. He punched Granny once as well. He did a lot of things. You're like your father. I can tell. The way you're acting right now, it's plain as day.
What kind of man is my father? Nobody ever tells me about him.
Well, what do you want to know?
Everything.
Okay. But your father was a complicated man. It might take a while to go through everything.
So what?
Well,
We've got nothing else to do, now do we?
okay. Well, your father had courage. Not like you. I remember one time he had to give a speech at this big meeting. I forget what he was saying, but everyone in the room started shouting over him. They were angry at your father for some reason, but your father never shouted, ever. So, when it got too loud for him to speak, he just stood where he was and picked up a newspaper and read it, and waited until everyone stopped roaring. Then he started his speech again, cool as a breeze. You're cool, but not like that. I remember one time we were in the van with the men, and Pa saw some traffic cones on the road, and slowed down and told one of us to grab them. I'll be honest, I froze. I was thinking about what Pa would do if a guard caught him, but your father didn't think twice. He was only about this height, but when the van slowed down, he just jumped out, grabbed the cones, and jumped back in before Pa sped off. All the men were delighted and patted him on the back and were laughing. But they were right. Your father had courage. Do you think he'd be standing around like you in a situation like this? Once he arrived in New York with his wife and had only 2 diamonds in his pocket. Yeah? Exactly. Anyway, he had the number for this composer friend of his. So your father uses one of his last 2 dimes to ring the number, and the man's wife answers. She didn't know who he was and hung up the phone. Your father tells this to his wife, but his wife says, ring the same number again with the last dime. We have everything to gain and nothing to lose. When he called again, his friend answered, and and had a great night. Another night in a chipper, he tells everyone he'd like to stay up past midnight, so that if he died in his sleep, he'd have lived an extra day. I said, but you haven't lived an extra day. You've only lived an extra 20 minutes or whatever. But nobody listened to me. They all agreed with him. Now, I know no one has ever told you how your father died, so I'll tell you now. And you'll understand why no one ever told you. You see, even though I was the oldest, I wasn't your grandfather's actual son. You know that, I suppose. I was adopted when Paul married my mother, so I always knew I'd never get the farm. Yara, I never minded. So when I grew up, I moved out and tried to set out my own. I bought a nightclub up the country, and I did all right out of it. One day, your father must have had a falling out with Paul, because he arrived at my door with his young family looking for work. I said grand. I was only delighted to have him with me, and he started working in the club. Anyway, to make a long story short, the business started to go quiet, and I got into financial trouble. Bad financial trouble. We decided to burn the building down and claim the insurance. Your father said he'd take care of burning it down if I took care of the legal side. No bother, your father rigs the whole thing up. He was very good at all that sort of thing, and he set the timer to go in the middle of the night when no one would be there. So we go for a few drinks. Not many now, just a few. But when your father gets home, he sees his wife isn't there. She never knew about our plan, and she had gone into the nightclub to get some work done, while no one would be there to disturb her. Your father gets in the car and rushes after her. When he gets there, the nightclub was already on fire. But your father doesn't think twice. He rushes straight into the flames to save her. He was never seen alive again. Your parents died that night, and to be honest, it was my fault.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It sounds like you did your best.
Yeah. I'm sorry though. He was a good man, your father. He took action when he had to. I remember we were at a football match, and one of the Cork fans slapped a woman in the face. No one knew what to do, but your father just reaches out his hand and thumps him into the face about 3 or 4 times, until the security came and took over. Then, when everyone else was whispering about it, your father just turns around and watches the rest of the match, as if nothing had happened. He was a terror for the films as well. You could call round to his house, and if there was a film on, he wouldn't even look at you until it was over. I remember some lads called round once to give him a hand picking stones. Picking stones! You can imagine now they weren't happy to do it, but he was watching a cowboy and they had to sit down and watch it until it was over.
Is that everything?
No. I remember we went driving paling posts with the boss, and I was sent home because I couldn't hold them. But your father could hold them, no bother. Yep, you'd have to hold them like this, and the boss would be like that, with the sledge. I was shitting it, and the shitting was only making the boss get madder. But your father at 13, not a bother. Go home, I was told. The sledge man could smash your fingers. I thought that anyway. But the thing was, I was getting nervous. But the shouting from the boss was making me more nervous. Your father wasn't like you or me, that's what I'm trying to say. You know those ones along the top of the hill? Yeah, that was him. He was younger then than you are now, and he still wasn't scared to do the right thing. I'm telling you, Jacob, do the right thing.
Grandad.
Yeah?
Grandad.
Yeah?
I want to talk to you about something.
Okay.
Christy said you're getting too old to run the farm.
Ha ha.
I'm worried.
Don't worry. He's always saying things like that. Yeah. Do you not hear going about me buying those cows across the border? He's a whinger, and I know. He's too scared to come to me now and make a stand for anything. Not to mind to make a stand for my entire farm of land. Serious, Jacob?
Okay, serious.
Okay. Good. afraid to get down. And when I do, it might not be you that gets up. Remember that.
It will be me.
It might be you, but it might not be you either. So be careful.
No, it will be me. I'm just telling it like it is. You're too old to run things. You've made some bad mistakes. You bought bad cows and you got Alzheimer's.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No.
I own this farm, picklehead.
The law says I can take it off you by force if I have to, because you're not in your right mind to take care of it yourself.
I am still in my right mind.
You're not. You're getting crazier and crazier every day. Come on!
Christy, what's wrong with you, goddammit?
Look, I've got plenty of proof. I don't want to go into all of the examples now, but believe you me, I've got a lot of anecdotes to back me up. The doctor agrees with me as well. And if you don't agree with him, there's a simple test you can do and it will tell us straight up if you've got Alzheimer's or not. But I know already.
I don't trust doctors. You know that about me.
I don't trust them either, but the test works.
How do we know that?
I don't know, Paul, but if you fail it, you fail it, and that's all that matters. I'm not doing this. There's laws, and they've been invented by people, so you've got to respect them. You have to step aside and let me take over. That's the best thing. Best for the farm, best for us, best for everyone. And that's what the law wants.
The law doesn't care about you or me.
Of course it does. That's the only reason it exists, dummy.
I'll fight you. Don't worry.
I'll fight you too. As long as it takes.
Guys, don't fight.
You, sit down!
No way.
Sit down!
Suck this.
Okay. Take it easy. I'll take your test whenever you want.
Now we're talking. Thank you.
And I'll pass it easy enough though. I'm sure.
I don't think so. Well, okay. Good.
I just got a report from the vet. It seems we have the worst kind of thing that could happen to a farmer. All our animals will have to be killed, including the cats and the dogs.
Oh God. Ah. They're all my cows. I love them all. What was that story about Muhammad Ali and George Foreman? You told me that one before. When they were in the Congo. Come on. And how Foreman was going around with this big white dog and everyone hated him for it because it was the same one the Belgians used against runaway slaves. I don't know. Well, whatever happened anyway, in the end, the crowd all started chanting, Ali, Bombaye, Ali, Bombaye,
Ali, Bombaye, Ali, Bombaye. There was the song as well. Do you remember that? This is the story of Cassius Clay, who changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He knows how to talk and he knows how to fight, and all the contenders he'll beat out of sight. Muhammad Ali. He floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. He moves like the black Superman and calls to the other guy, I'm Ali. Catch me if you can. Now all you fight fans, you've got to agree, there ain't no flies on Muhammad Ali. He fills the arena wherever he goes, and everyone gets what they paid for. Muhammad was known to have said, you watch me shuffle and I'll jab off your head. He moves like the black Superman and calls to the other guy, I'm Ali. Catch me if you can.
disappointed, but I've signed the farm over to Jacob here. There'll be a little bit there for you as well, but almost everything will go to Jacob. You just have to sign it, good man.
The vet's here to kill the cows. He's got a man with him and needs one of us to go with them to show them where they all are.
I can't do it. I can't just... Oh God, I can't watch them all be shot.
I'll go.
Thanks, Christy.
Don't worry, Paul. I'll be back.
Jacob, you stay here. I want to talk to you.
Okay?
Put on this jacket. We're going for a walk. I'm angry, Jacob.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm going to fail Christie's test.
What?
I've got Alzheimer's. Christie spotted it. Of course he did the way he sneaks around.
I can't believe you got Alzheimer's.
I do.
My friend's aunt had that. He used to visit her. And when they'd be watching television and the tea shop would come up, they might say to her, "Do you know who he is?" And she'd say, "Of course, isn't it the tea shop?" And then maybe the Pope might come up, and they'd ask if she knew who he was. And she'd say, "Of course, isn't it the Pope?" And then they'd ask her, did she know what year it was? And she'd say, "I do, of course, and stop testing me. It's 1956. Huh? There weren't even televisions in 1956.
That's it. That's what I'll be like from now on in.
Uh-oh. It's starting to get very stormy, Grandpa. I don't know. Should we go back?
Just put up your hood and close your jacket. You're a good lad, Jacob. If that was Christy, he'd just turn around and go home. You see, Christy wants everything to be easy. Just walking in and telling me to get down. Come on! Life isn't that easy.
Come on, Grandpa. I hate when people use that phrase. Life is as easy as you want it to be.
Look at me. Do you think it's a bad thing when your life isn't easy?
No.
Yeah, well, you should go hang out where people are rich. Everyone's unhappy. And I know people might say, "Gee whiz, I sure would like to be rich. Take it easy. No troubles. Wouldn't that be a wonderful life?" They don't know life. Because what makes life mean something is purpose, a goal, the battle, the struggle, even if you don't win it.
But what you're saying there is exactly what Christy would say himself.
Yeah, but if Christy said it, it would mean something else. Well spotted though. Christy would say something like that. You've got a good head on your shoulders, Jacob, just like your grandfather. That's why I want to give you this. It's the farm. I'm giving it to you. All you have to do is sign it here.
I don't think we should go and do this behind Christy's back.
No, we have to go and do this behind Christy's back.
No way, he's a good man. Just talk to him straight.
What's the point in talking straight? Getting things to work the way you want them to work is more important.
But he genuinely wants to do the right thing. Remember just now when the vet needed help and you were to accept, Christy stepped forward and did the thing that had to be done.
You think he was doing that to help me?
Yeah.
No. He was taking advantage of me at a very emotional point in my life to take control. Seriously, Jacob, when you look at things, you need to learn that what you see is not actually what you're seeing. You know Bill Hamilton?
Yes.
Well, he did exactly what I'm talking about. He used to spend ages watching humans doing selfish things in parks and underground stations and other places. And he couldn't work it out. You see, he was an evolutionary biologist, and in order for evolution to work, humans had to be selfish. But humans weren't selfish. They were always doing things for other people. They even killed themselves for other people. Then one day he worked it out. It wasn't humans that were selfish. It was our genes that were selfish. Humans can die, but genes can live forever. And genes are happy enough to sacrifice humans here and there, just to keep themselves on this planet. Think about that. In fact, that's making me think right now. Hang on a second. Don't say anything. Yeah, Christy, he's not my son. He doesn't have my genes. But you have my genes, Jacob. You know that makes Christy yours and my enemy. That's bloody important. Okay, you're young, so you don't want to think about something like that. But it's something you should think about.
I don't think I will, Grandpa. I'm gay.
Grand, fine, be gay all you want. But that won't stop you having children at some stage, will it? You can still have sex with a woman, can't you?
If I had to.
Perfect. That'll do then. It doesn't take long. Trust me. Fuck. Christy's test. What am I going to do when I fail that test?
The same things you did before the test.
The same thing I did before the test. You should learn that story about the king who decided to give everything to his 3 daughters. Then they kicked them out. He spent his last days hanging around with some fool. Then he died. You know that story? That's the exact same thing that will happen to me. What do you think you'd have gotten off me if I died right now?
You talked a lot, and that was always good.
Did I? It doesn't matter. Fathers don't have to talk to sons. It doesn't work like that. Once the 2 men are together, it doesn't matter. The son is getting energy off him. Even the meanest man is gentle when he's showing his child how to do something. I'm telling you, I'm giving you something right now. A vibration, or a smell, or something. And I'll be giving it to you all your life. All you have to do is be beside me. In fact, you're getting it off me right now. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Son, what's the purpose of life? Don't answer, just think about it.
Remember that guy Tim that used to live with us? Remember he was fat? Really fat? He wasn't always fat, but he ate fast food twice a day. Indian for lunch, pizza, Chinese for dinner. He'd skip breakfast, but had plenty of Coke and crisps during the day. He drank half a bottle of vodka with a can of Red Bull every night and smoked 20 fags. He was a mess. The kind of guy he was now, he had no imagination, and only said things that someone else had said already. But one day I stuck it to him and said, "You are literally the most unhealthy man I could ever imagine. You know you are going to die." He said he didn't want to live beyond 50.
I like that guy, Tim. Although he had his own personal code of honour with his girlfriend, he cheated on her, and he cheated on her a lot. But he never cheated on her with anybody who was uglier than his girlfriend. Every girl he cheated on his girlfriend with was better looking.
Can I sign the will?
Of course. Son, I'm old. My life is nearly over. But there's things I have to leave you. There are things you need to do something about. And I can say it to you, because Christy only cares about feathering his own nest. But I think you're a bigger thinker. You need to think about global warming. It's a big issue, but nobody seems to care about it. Also, world hunger. But I think they're linked. And worldwide social justice is important. Our democracies are being eroded. And the behaviour of Russia is again a particular concern to mankind, especially in the Ukraine, which I think could lead to a world war. Intellectual property rights are becoming contentious because of the internet. Abuses of power like racism, patriarchy, oppression, urban alienation. The feeling of community is dying. Our souls are being sold to capitalism. Money also corrupts everyone's soul. We need it, but we need to address it. These things are important. I know it's a lot, but anyone can do something. Just do your best. You'll have a good life if you do your best, I promise you. Now can you get me a glass of water?
Grandpa!
Jacob!
I don't know. You took a lot of tablets and drank a glass of water.
I remember when I was younger, I told Paul I wanted to be a boxer. No way did he want me to be a boxer, but he was tricky. He said you can do it, but you can only do it if you want to become world champion. He said I had to train every morning at 6. I had to quit school, bed every evening at 7 p.m. I had a special diet, no sweets or alcohol of any kind. I did it for 2 days and then I quit. That's it. That's the way he was. He did this on purpose, and now I'm a farmer.
Christy?
That means nothing. He killed himself, sure. Oh dear God! My fool and his tricks.
No. He was a good man. Remember the way Spartacus nearly won his revolution? Nearly. He won lots of battles and led his slaves all around Italy for years. But where were they going to go? Eventually some black pirates tricked them into it, and the Romans caught them and killed them all. Hung them all along the main road to Rome. Their dead bodies. Can you imagine?
Yeah. You know your mother was a good woman, Jacob.
Yeah?
Yeah, I liked her a lot. Just saying.
Okay, Christy. I can't live here anymore. I really hate you. I'm sorry. If there's any inheritance at all for me, send it on. Okay, bye.
Hey. Is your name Jacob? Because you're a cracker.
You're a bad man, Christy.